So after applying the CSS, it's time to add the functionalities by binding the HTML template with the TypeScript file that is referred to as the component class in Angular. Inside the component TS, I'll define the variables for name, email, phone number, and address, keeping them empty as we will use these variables for two-way binding as we want to collect and display the input values. I've already imported the form module, so let's just give the ng model in the respective input fields and corresponding variable values. Same thing we want for qualification, so I'll just create an array of objects named qualification with the properties school, degree, and year. We need an array here because we are rendering multiple sets of input fields for the user's qualifications. That's why we need an array, keeping them empty as they are to be filled by users. Now to display them, we have to iterate the array, and for that I'll place the ng-for directive here with a variable q to iterate over the array qualification. Using the ng model to bind the variable with it, I'll do the same for the degree and year fields. For the form preview as well, I'll bind the variables. Now we need a function for adding qualification on the button click. I'm going to write this dot qualification, that is the array dot push, and I'll pass the empty object properties here. I've used the push method to push values entered in the fields to the array. Push actually mutates the original array, and ideally we use other array methods which keep the original array intact, but at the moment we'll live with the push method. So now when the add qualification button is clicked, this function gets called, which allows the user to input information about multiple schools or degrees if needed. Let's bind this function with the button. Also, we need to display the number of qualifications entered by the user, so I'll simply set an index variable here, and I'll set the heading name as qualification with the i+1. So now the loop will iterate when the add qualification button is clicked, and the index gets incremented as well. For the submit button, I am creating a boolean variable submitted and setting it to false, as we don't want the form to get submitted upon rendering. I am creating a submit function which will set this.submitted is equal to true when clicked, binding the function with the button. Now all we have to do is show the preview of the form when the submit is clicked. I'll give the reference variable to the ng template as #preview, and inside the ng container I'll pass the condition: if not submitted, render the form, else display the preview form. And also for the edit button, I'll set submitted to false. This will bring the user back to the form from the preview page. Giving the ng class directive for the name to make it stand out different than the rest of the values. Here the name is CSS class on which we will apply the styles, and setting it to true. This means that the name CSS class will be applied to paragraph element because the expression evaluates to true. Let's style it, setting the font size to 2 rem and bit of bottom margin of 0.5 rem to make the name stand different from the rest of the values. Let's check the output now. I'll fill up the fields and click on submit, and you can see the preview. Also, let's hide the heading when we are on the preview page. For that, I'll define a boolean variable show heading, setting it to true, as we want to display the heading when the page gets rendered. And on submit, I'll set it to false. And inside the template, I'll give the ngIf directive with value show heading. Let's check it once again, filling up the fields, adding another education field as well. Click on submit, and we are ready with the simple portfolio builder.